Hi there. I don't know why I'm associating this presentation with COVID-19. It's a long time since I've actually commented on the pandemic, and I was going to watch a video called Pandemic or Plandemic, which is only a week old as I make this video. And I thought that all the conspiracy theories were sort of done and dusted now that Mr. Trump has donned his mask. Anyway, and he isn't a socialist after all, is he, really? Um, well, or is he? Mhm. Anyway, so this is actually and I was thinking, in fact, of this symbol, which in some people actually incites a great deal of dread and horror in actual fact. But I think it's a bit like, listening to Stockhausen's music. It's an acquired taste, let us say. And some people throw up their hands and say they're going to jump off a bridge as soon as they hear Stockhausen's music, and others like him, and hate modernist music. But you either like modernist music or you hate it. There's no sort of middle ground at all. Anyway, the reason why I'm showing this is because I had an interesting experience with the Ordo Saturnus, or the OS, on the astral. I actually was allowed access to their Prophet's house on the astral, which is sort of their main headquarters, if you will, where there was a big library and there's various ritual chambers and so forth. And I spent time actually visiting this Prophet's house, so called, for a few weeks, until I got bored with it all, really. But and this is part of the Great Seal of the Order of Saturn, Ordo Saturnus, and part of the Great Seal, because if I showed you the full seal, I'd have to kill you. No, no, really, that's just a joke. I think. I understand that the Great Seal itself, the final version, is revealed after you've been initiated through 97 degrees of initiation. Blimey. And then at the end, you sort of they give you a little bit of the picture every time you get initiated. So by the time you get to 97, presumably you know the whole seal. But this is the part of the seal, the sort of public version. Although it doesn't seem very public to me, it seems really, really quite potent, with magical power, actually, which is hardly very suitable for public consumption, I would say. And I might get into trouble for showing you it, really. But anyway, it's made up of three parts. The obvious part, of course, is the first here, this little squiggly sigil, which, of course, is, as you know, if you study astrology, the astrological sign for Saturn, the planet Saturn. And then most people will know that the second element of this seal is the elemental sign for Earth, which is this upside down triangle with the line going through it. And the line going through it with the circle, makes up the slightly less known alchemical symbol for salt. So you've got salt, Earth, and Saturn. And when I questioned the OS, I said, what are you about? What's your purpose in life? And they were pretty forthcoming about it. They said, well, our purpose actually, is to learn to manipulate the forces of Saturn, Earth, and Salt to our advantage and to the advantage of our members. Because if you don't basically learn to manipulate the forces of this world will squish you and squash you and manipulate you and torment you in various different ways and in a variety of different ways, as shown in this box down in the bottom left-hand corner. So it's really, as far as they're concerned, a straight choice. You either get squished by the forces of this world, or you learn to properly manipulate them in order to gain advantage for yourself and for your family, and for the Order of Saturn, if you happen to be a member of the Order of Saturn. So quite straightforward, really. On the understanding, of course, that you manipulate the forces of Earth, Saturn, and Salt, and of course, in return, they manipulate you, or they make use of you. So there's an exchange of energy, as there has to be. And I suppose the ultimate goal is to sort of balance the amount of energy that you give to them and the amount of energy they give to you. And if there's an imbalance either way, then I suppose that's when you get into the newspapers and get into the conspiracy theory archives as being naughty people that do bad things. But if you maintain a balance between the forces of Saturn, Earth, Salt, and yourself, consciously aware of the exchange of energy that occurs between these four elements, yourself, Saturn, Earth, and Salt, then pretty much most of the time all will be well. That's the theory anyway, because the alternative is just to be a plaything of the gods, basically. Now, the other way, of course, the Gnostic way, as it might be called, or contemplative way, is to renounce the world, go into the forest and become a renouncer and have nothing to do with this world at all, and simply go within or go without, go into deep meditation for very long stretches of time, surfacing only to grab a mere morsel to eat. Although basically you're surviving mostly on air and prayer. Now, of course, the Order of Saturn was quick to point out the hypocrisy of this, because you're sitting on the ground meditating, so you're in contact with the earth. You are subject to time, so you're subject to the forces of Saturn, and you need salt in order to survive. And food in order to survive. And water. So, you may have renounced the world, but you're certainly not disconnected from it. To which the retort is, I am actually closer to the earth by renouncing this world than you are, my dear members of the OS. And they contemplate on that one. Now, of course, people that fail to renounce, or they sort of make a half-assed sort of attempt at renouncing the world, they end up repudiating the world. And repudiating the world leads to a lot of frustration and anger and conspiracy theories and religious cults that are sort of in this world but not of this world, but are struggling to come to terms with that fact. And if anything like me, they get bogged down with frustration and anger and sort of a feeling of victimhood, I suppose, at the forces of the demiurge playing with you like a kitten plays with a mouse that Mummy Cat has provided it with, so you get rather angry and steamed up about it, and you fly over the muddy, bloody battlefield of this world, and you feel a lot of sorrow, like a bird flying over the battlefields of the First World War, as Wilfred Owen did in one of his poems. Looking down with great sorrow at the catastrophe of humankind, and its attempt to manipulate the forces of Saturn, Salt, and Earth, only to, in fact, result in World War One, World War Two, and other catastrophes and environmental catastrophes, etc. So I suppose that's maybe the link with COVID-19. And my thoughts about it the other day. But the OS, the Order of Saturn, were also very quick to point out that as well as this category of people who are all steamed up and repudiating, as well as the renouncers, as well as the victims, the hoi polloi, the homo normalis, the herd, what they call the herd, just being played with by the forces of Saturn, Earth, and Salt. There is a fifth category of people who I think the Order of Saturn somewhat admire. And these people don't renounce the world, they don't repudiate the world, they accept the world as it is. And we might sort of represent the world as a sphere here. And these little dots in the sphere represent little sparks of light, silver and gold, that people come across during their sort of traverse or their journey through the world and everything that it has to offer. And I was going to represent the colours here: black, green, emerald green, brown, and grey. Sort of the full colours of this world, in quotation marks. And as you go through experiencing the different colours of this world, the black for humanity's destructiveness, the green for nature, the brown for the soil, the topsoil of this earth, which is what people, when they worship the earth, they're worshipping the topsoil of the earth, the fertile part of it, and grey, which represents the rock, the various stratas of rock, upon which the topsoil rests, and other secret occult forces which are concerned with Earth, such as gnomes and things like that, and geomantic powers and things like that. So as you traverse, as you go through Earth, this world, and experience everything this world has to offer, you discover on your way, or you may discover if you're lucky, little points of gold and silver, and these little points of gold and silver you take into your heart. And they transform you, however briefly or temporarily, and give you an insight into the transcendental realm that lies beyond this world. And by living the Gnostic life, by following the rule of Gnosticism, which is covered in this channel, you may experience gnosis, and or you may not. Within the world of agnosis, you may experience gnosis, and so you're neither renouncing the world nor repudiating it exactly. You are what I call the middle way, which is sort of Buddhist notion, Buddhist idea that that you meditate, you go within sometimes, and you listen to the voice of the silence. At other times, you live by a certain ethical rule, and practical practice rule, that is with meditation. I can't help thinking that, in fact, everything to do with Buddhism was actually being recommended by the Order of Saturn, strangely enough. Although the Buddha would say not strangely enough, because even Maya, the forces of Maya, the forces of worldly illusion, recognize the Buddhist truth of the matter, which is neither renunciation nor repudiation, nor victimhood, nor perpetratorhood, but a Buddhist middle path between these pillars, if you like, all these forces. And so I suppose the Gnostic way actually is also neither repudiation or renouncing the world exactly. You're in the world, but you're not of the world, as St. Paul said. You're living by the contemplative rule of Gnosticism on one hand, and you are going through life being open to the possibility of gnosis, which is when you come across one of these sparks of silver or gold. And when you experience one of these sparks of silver and gold in the midst of Earth's salt on Saturn, then you indeed, you are a very fortunate person, and you take that gnosis deep into yourself, and allow it to transform your life in many different ways, and surprising and unexpected ways, no doubt. So what started off as a somewhat grim contemplation, but also an acceptance of the Order of Saturn and its work on the astral plane to do the bidding of the demiurge and his agents, turns out to be quite an interesting contemplation of Gnosticism itself. And one of the interesting things about it, in the New Testament, for example, the demons say they know the name of Jesus, at which every knee shall bow, and it seems that in fact the Order of Saturn is very aware of the Gnostic path, the Gnostic rule, is very aware of the possibility of gnosis. and respects that choice that people make. Um, and it's just that they make another choice. They would rather have or attempt to have power over the forces that imprison the soul here, rather than remain a victim of those forces. Which I suppose is a point of view that logically can be held. Um, Whether or not one is, and I suppose, like it says, let success be thy proof. The point is that we only hear about the ruthless, manipulative, exploitative, and predatory who fail. History only talks about the failures of those of the manipulators of the forces of this world, but there are plenty of success stories actually associated with manipulation, which is why people come back for more. And people join the Order of Saturn in order to learn how to manipulate those forces. We only hear about the Joseph Stalins and the Adolf Hitlers and the Pol Pots and the Chairman Maos because they largely have failed. In this world, the world has eaten them up. But it's possible, in fact, says the Order of Saturn, to strike a sort of balance, to keep a balance of forces in relation to yourself, and thereby you succeed in what some people might call ruthlessness or unethical standards or unethical behaviour. And basically, if you can get away with it, get away with it. As Thrasymachus was said to, if you're going to do something wrong, don't get caught. Basically, and that's basically the extent of ethics. And there's no morality, there's no right or wrong. There's just success or failure in this world. But nevertheless, if you're going to be a Gnostic, you really, really don't care about success or failure in this world. The world is as it is, people will succeed or fail in this world as fortune dictates, or as the forces of nature dictate, and there it is. But the important thing for a Gnostic to do is to continue their contemplative life and be open to the specks of divine light that may be experienced even in this world. And I say this finally because I recognise that despite what's going on with the COVID-19 catastrophe, and no doubt there'll be loads more catastrophes in this world, and loads more crazy stuff will happen to humanity over the decades of my lifetime and beyond that. I am content, or I'm beginning to learn to be content, to lead the Gnostic life rather than want to renounce everything and fail and get frustrated and end up repudiating everything, which leads to madness and anger and frustration. But rather to not exactly to be a victim of the forces either, and not to manipulate or attempt to manipulate those forces, but to make the best of a bad job, I suppose, really, and to see the divine spirituality in the black, the green, the brown, and the grey. And if I can do that successfully every day, then I consider that to be the criterion of success in inverted commas, and everybody else can live as they will, and they will live as they will, because nothing I say in this presentation will change anybody's mind, obviously. I'm preaching to people that are sort of drawn to Gnosticism, and want to discover the reason why being a Gnostic is a pretty good life. But I suppose you could become a Buddhist instead, and that would probably amount to about the same thing, really. But there are differences between Gnosticism and Buddhism, and I suppose there's a hint of repudiation in Gnosticism, which there isn't in Buddhism. And I suppose if you want to offer a balanced expression of repudiation and renunciation, without becoming a Buddhist, then Gnosticism seems to me like a great option.